Hi, everybody. Welcome to the OnStage Blog Theater podcast. We're so excited today because we are talking about my recent trip to New York City. So, we're doing some current shows playing on Broadway, which should be really fun to talk about. And I'm theater critic Rachel Wagner, and Jacklyn Collier is here.
Rachel, it was so nice to have you in New York City.
Yeah, it was so fun. I actually got to see your place this time, and you helped me to be able to have a place to get some work done. So I appreciated it, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was really cool that, for all the podcasting we've done in the hundreds of hours on Zoom, then finally being able to get to do it at your place, and then for you to do it at
Right.
my place, it was like, oh, we see where the other person actually is.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing we started doing when I either see a national tour or either of us sees a national tour or something on Broadway or off Broadway, something of that caliber, we've been recording little reactions of a minute 90 seconds, that kind of a thing, and they've been posting on the OnStage Blog social media, so you want to make sure you're following over there, and you can see our reactions, including what we thought of Drag the Musical, which
Yeah.
was the one of these four that we saw, or which was the one of these five that we saw together.
Yeah, it's fun, especially getting that straight out of the theater reaction
Yeah,
before you even have time to really, really process it, because it's nice when we talk in the podcast or when you do a write-up, we've had a little time to process it and get our thoughts
yeah,
together, but it's also fun to see that straight out of the theater reaction.
yeah. I know. I like it too. I like both. I like the more detailed, in the weeds kind of a thing, but I also like just getting that raw, what did you think of the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. So definitely y'all want to check that out. And but how have things been going for you? Having a good December?
Yeah, it's been a really great December. Um, it's been busy. I think as it is for most of the people who like live in our space, it just feels like there's so much going on. Like in addition to all the Christmas stuff, there's so much theater to go to and
Yeah.
see. And then all like the Christmas life activities that you're like, wow, December feels like it is flying by.
Yeah.
It's intense. How have you been feeling? Because you're doing a lot.
Yeah, it's very, very busy. I feel like I can hardly catch my breath with everything to cover for Hallmark, my other podcasts, and all the theater to see and the other stuff.
And like the
It's
Oscar
been
contenders, everything.
Yeah, oh yeah, the award screeners.
Yeah, the
That's intense.
and that's a whole separate world thing that even if you were just working in that world, it would be a lot.
Yeah.
So for the few friends I have that work in both spaces, which is pretty much just you and Alonso Giraldi,
Right.
but
Yeah.
for the two of you, I'm like, they're busy.
And he doesn't even do theater.
Right, he doesn't do
So I
theater.
have one more on him.
You have one more that you're like, okay, I guess I'm doing that too.
Yeah.
But I know we're gonna get into your trip, but when you got back from your trip, you had a really
Yeah.
fun surprise waiting for you.
Yeah, this is wild. Like I have never had anything like this happen to me before. I had put up my tree before the trip, but I hadn't had any time to decorate outside. And I usually just do something simple. But I hadn't had time. All I'd done is I had like an old wreath that I'd put up. That was it. Anyway, I came home and I honestly thought that the Uber driver had taken the wrong turn or something, because I'm like, this is not my house. Like, I was like, what?
Not
Because
mine.
yeah, because there was a new wreath that was much larger, a fresh wreath. There was this garland with lights. There was there was little like peppermint signs, things, placards,
Yeah.
whatever. And then a new doormat and a new bench seat, because mine had gotten pretty frayed, and a new pillow. Like, I mean, it was a lot, and I have literally no idea
Oh,
who
wait,
would have
you
done
still
this.
haven't cracked the case.
No, I have no idea. Like, I have like I have no idea. Like, it's possible, I guess it's people at church, but I'm not really that like super tight. I mean, I'm fine with everybody at church, but not enough that they would even know that I was out of town or that I need, like, I don't know. I just feel like that it's not, I just don't think it's people at church. And then my two best friends, one of them was out of town and the other, she swears that she didn't
It
do
wasn't
it.
her.
Uh, and my, my family, I mean, I guess there's a possibility it was my dad, but it doesn't seem like something like he wouldn't buy like a Disney mat or like some of the stuff. It was like that doesn't feel like something my dad would buy. I don't think it's either of my two siblings that live here. That definitely is not purchases that they would make. And that's it. Like I don't really have that many friends. I'm like, who could have possibly done this?
Well, and your mom was out of town with you.
Yeah, my mom was out of town with me, so it's not her. And I mean, I was shocked. I mean, I mean, I guess it's kind of fun. I mean, I just hope that the people who did it know how grateful I am and how touched I was because I don't really get a chance to, that's the downside to it being a secret is I don't get to really say thank you. But it was really fun.
It's so I feel like it's so incredible because if it was something that was sent to you, I feel like you have so many friends all across the country. So that would be like that would really crack it wide open, right?
Yeah.
The fact that it was someone who came to your house to decorate, it does really narrow it down because you had family that was away and you're like, you have people that wouldn't necessarily buy that stuff. So that makes it like an actual
Yeah.
mystery of like, who was it?
So it's my own little Hallmark story.
Do you want to find out or do you like it being a mystery?
Well, see, that's where I feel because I kind of wish I knew just so I could adequately say thank you. But it
Yeah.
is kind of fun also to just to have it be a mystery. So I see both ways. But yeah, it's wild.
I feel like if the person follows you on social media, they saw how excited and grateful you are. I guess if they don't follow you, but they've got to know that you can't know who it is. So
Well,
I
and they'd have to follow me in order to know that I would
be
be out
away.
of town,
Yeah.
you know. And it was yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I guess somebody could have like possibly talked to, I mean, my family claims they have no idea.
No idea.
No. So it's possible, I guess, that somebody could have talked to them and found out that I would be gone or something. Because I don't know. It's just it's a mystery. But if you're out there, then thank you, first of all. And second of all, you can let me know.
Show yourself,
Yeah.
reveal yourself. Did
Yeah.
you feel, sorry, last question on this. Do you feel like the reactions of your best friend and your family, they seemed authentic and not like they were lying?
Yeah.
They were surprised?
Yeah, they did. I haven't had a chance to actually talk to my best friend, talk to her in person. I've just texted, so I don't like see her vocal expressions
See,
or
right.
like her. So I guess it's possible I could and she's the one I had Thanksgiving with. She's the one who knew most that I was
Yeah.
would be gone. And she's like a huge Disney person. And so that's why I was like, I wonder if it's Jen. She says it's not. I was not her. But anyway.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We
I mean,
have
but it was not cheap. I mean, it is like I said, a new mat for my bench, a new doormat, and like those garlands are not cheap. And
no,
like it
and
was
a lot of time.
yeah. Anyway, so if y'all want to put your guesses in the mystery, then let us know. but but let's dive in. Let's talk about these shows. And I'm sorry if I'm going to be doing more of the talking since I saw the shows in in this episode, but hopefully we'll be able to go back and forth. So the whole reason that I took this trip is because we were doing it in honor of my grandma who was much beloved to me and to everybody who knew her. And she did 30 years ago, she did this trip with my with all of her daughter-in-laws. in particular. And so with my mom and with my aunts, and they did this trip to New York. And so my Aunt Jody thought it would be fun to do this New York trip in honor and homage and in honor of my grandma. And so and in particular, the my grandma loved the Rockettes, and she loved anything with tap dancing. She even took a tap dancing. Her and Jody took a tap dancing class. Or was yes,
I love that.
yeah. Like I went and saw Crazy for You with her. She loved anything like that. That kind of razzle dazzle. She loved. So, so anyway, there were how many? Two, three. So there were six of us cousins that were there, and then my aunts, and then my mom, and so that includes two of my sisters, including my sister Anna, who lives in the UK. So that was fun to get to see her, and you got to meet her.
I got to meet her, which was really fun. She's so
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it wasn't a trip. I didn't, you and Kristen Maldonado were the only friends that I got to see on this trip. And I have lots of friends in the New York area. But it was really more focused on family and remembering my grandma, and so we had, family meals and things like that. And we went to Tavern on the Green, which was my grandma's favorite. And it was kind of fun because we went to Tavern on the Green, and in Elf the Musical, that's a point of that Jovi, she wants to go to Tavern on the Green. So that was kind of fun, you know.
I think it's such a beautiful way for your family to honor your grandma by doing something that she loves so much that was a tradition, and getting to see the Rockettes. It's a
Yeah.
really great way to remember her.
It was really fun, and it more meaningful than I it was more meaningful just to be with my cousins. We hadn't done anything like that for quite a while. We haven't had like a family reunion kind of type thing, and so that was really really nice, and brought back a lot of memories because I was very very close to my grandma, and we all were, and we just I was talking to my aunt about it, that like I'm sure that there was somebody out there that didn't like my grandma, but nobody that I know. Like
Yeah.
everybody, like there's people who don't like me. Absolutely. And I just think like what an example of a human being that just loved. Like
Yeah.
that you wanted to be around, that you loved being with. And she just made you feel good. And it was a good reminder of her and her energy,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and getting to have that with your family, it's like we can often reflect ourselves, or sit and think about it, or go to church, or,
Yeah.
do these things that, like, even on, like, I cook when I want to be reminded of my grandma, but like this was a whole trip that you
Yeah.
got to really be immersed in that for days. Like
Yeah.
that, all of that was in honor of your grandma.
Well, and I was just glad that my aunt, decided to do this and pushed it, and that it was a challenge for me, and especially to do this over thanks that they to do this the week after Thanksgiving, because when we were first planning it, I didn't realize that Thanksgiving was so late in November. And so I had to get all of the Thanksgiving recaps up to Hallmarkies podcast that week on vacation. Like that was a challenge, but I did it. I did it, and I was very proud of that. And so it was hard. It was a challenge, but I do think there's something to the that it's not that you have to do things like take expensive trips. You don't have to do that. But I do think there's something to taking time to make things memorable in
Yeah.
life, you know, like taking time to be like, let's actually like make a memory out of this experience, even if it's just like sharing a meal together, as opposed to just like kind of getting by. It's so easy to be like, oh, I'm so Like it was
Yes.
hard. It was hard to get all of that, planned and get everything. It was definitely a challenge, but I don't know, just a good reminder to make time to make things and make those memories.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that it's not about the money, it's about like all the intentionality that goes behind it.
Yes, that's a good
Um,
word.
and when you called it a vacation, I would say for you it was more of a trip.
Yeah,
A wonderful
yeah,
trip, but you
yeah.
were you were working
It
really
was a
hard.
working vacation. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
I'm actually really impressed that you were able to see me and Kristen because you had so many wonderful family things,
Yeah.
so many work things that you were doing. So the fact that you could even
Well,
squeeze it in was great.
I think the only reason is because you came to the show with me and Kristen came to a show with me. So that's
Oh,
the
Kristen
reason.
went to a show
Yeah.
too. That makes
Yeah. So,
we're like,
but
what
and
time? We're like, what time do you have, Rachel? We'll go to a show. That's
yeah. So the first thing that we saw was the Christmas Spectacular, the Radio City Rockettes at Radio City Music Hall. And this is about a 90-minute show that basically has everything you could ever want as far as Christmas, 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 Christmas. There is tons of Santa Clauses. There's, of course, the Rockettes doing their kick line and their wooden soldier drop. And they did such a good job with the wooden soldier drop of making it seem like it was about to not happen. Like
yes.
they with their bodies, they made it seem like, oh, we're not going to be able to pull this off, and they were just kind of, I don't know how with no words but it felt like, oh, and the way that it took like so long so basically they kind of lean on each other and fall back and fall back and fall back and until the whole column is dropped down and but they did it very convincingly to actually make it kind of like tension behind it, which was brilliant. And the whole thing culminates into this live nativity. They have camels, live camels, and other animals, and they're singing "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," and very it's just everything Christmas that you could ever want. And one thing that, I mean, I'd seen it once before with my grandma in 2000. Of course, that's years and years ago. But I don't think that back then they had all of these projections that they did. Of course, that's like the huge thing on Broadway right now. But it was really cool. They had projections going all the way up to the top of the ceiling, and they used it very, very, very well, and they had confetti and snow and lots of like visual effects, even more than just the dancers.
I think it's really impressive with the Rockettes. I just saw it this year with my niece, and then I saw it 8 years ago with a girl I used to babysit for. So
Mm,
I've seen it, and I saw it one more time with my mom. But what they're really good about is being able to feel like what they have is consistent and there's so much tradition and there's so many things that you recognize from year to year. But
yeah.
also, as you're mentioning, all these new things that they're adding in, like the projections, and like this year they had the little fairies.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was
They were
fun.
animatronic
No fairies.
fairies. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, which was very cool.
Yeah, they were really fun. They were like these little like drones kind of.
Yeah, yeah, it was, and I really, that nativity scene every time, it really, overwhelms me um with emotion. And I think it's a really great secular celebration of Christmas because you've got all the Santa stuff in New York at Christmas, and then
Yeah,
very nice religious aspect as well.
I really appreciate that they still include both.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
you get both, and so it's just like an all-encompassing Christmas celebration. It really is a Christmas spectacular.
Truly.
Yeah. So that was super fun and very nostalgic to get to go. The only thing that I think can be hard about going to Broadway shows in the winter months is you're all bundled up, and usually you've done some kind of like exercise, to get from, subway or wherever, to get there. So you're kind of hot, you're kind of tired. And a lot of times you've had a meal right before, and it can be hard to not get a little bit sleepy,
Oh yeah. It's
because
bad.
yeah, like even for a show that's you're thoroughly enjoying it. You really, it's not the fault. It's just that it's just physically hard sometimes, I think.
I actually felt that about the Rockettes, even though I was riveted every moment. So my niece fell asleep like halfway through. It was her nap time, but also it's so cozy. And the thing is, the
Yeah, it is cozy.
Rockettes are way more comfortable than any of the other seats.
Yeah, that's true.
So I
That's
think that
true.
I was warm, I was cozy, I had just eaten. Like it was all these things where I was like, oh, if I wasn't enjoying this so much, I really could just take like a little nap.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a thing. I don't know. I guess the solution just have like a lot of caffeine or something. I don't
Yeah,
know, but it doesn't have anything to do with the show. It's just, physical human beings.
physical. Yeah. And well, it depends also what kind of theaters you're in. Like we go to see Evil Dead the musical, and the theater's kind of cold, and there's chairs that are
Yeah,
kind of not the most comfortable. I mean, it's a cool experience, but it's very different. The Rockettes, the lighting is perfect.
yeah.
The chairs are soft.
But it just like, because usually I'm just coming right from my car, I'm not like quite as bundled up as I am
Yeah,
in New York, and I haven't done that same exercise, to get there. I don't know, I just think it's like a little bit different. So I was like, oh, but anyway. So then the next show that I saw Death Becomes Her, and this is, of course, this is, of course, based on the movie, the classic movie, and it stars Megan Hilty and Jennifer Simard, and and Michelle Williams, and they were absolutely amazing. I loved this show. I thought it was so funny. It may be the funniest show that I've seen on Broadway. And granted, I don't live there, so I haven't seen like everything. But I think it is the funniest show that I've seen on Broadway since The Drowsy Chaperone.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what I have heard rave reviews about Death Becomes Her.
It was so funny. I was laughing from beginning to end, and really, I mean, Megan Hilty's so good as this. Like, she's the vain, conceited, gold. She's the Goldie Hawn of the cast, and then, but Jennifer Simard is the real standout. I mean,
Really?
she was so good. And I guess I had actually seen her in Company, but I didn't realize it. And it's kind of fun because Christopher Cyber, he was also, he played I forget his character's name, but because I think but they were a couple in Company. It's Sarah in Company, and then he was the her husband. I forget his name. But
Uh,
anyway, and but she was just great. She was so funny, and their chemistry all together, and the visual effects, the spectacle. This is a really good show. It was very entertaining.
yeah, I've heard just from everyone I know that's seen it, they're like, it is just incredible. And the performance on the parade looked great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that if I was gonna nitpick, I just wish that they had one song with all three ladies together,
Yeah.
but they don't. They don't have anything with them all together, and but the costumes are wonderful. It's just entertaining. I hope it does well. I really do, because I really enjoyed it. Then I saw Elf the musical, the revival, and this was a lot of fun. They have Gray Henson playing Buddy, and Sean Astin as Santa, and also he plays the boss, the that Mr. Greenway plays Mr. Greenway,
Yeah.
and you have Kayla Davian playing Jovi, and Ashley Brown playing Emily Hobbs, and Michael Hayden as Walter Hobbs. and this was great. I mean, I have very few like notes about it. I think Elf the musical, I think the songs are kind of generic. They're not like my favorite. I if I was gonna pick, I think actually Christmas Story, the musical, is the better. It's just as far as pure songs. I think it's the better musical as far as a holiday based on a movie. I think the White Christmas is also better than this is just as far as songs and things. But it's very entertaining and sweet. And the, I think this Gray Henson, he has that childlike energy that you want in for Buddy.
Yeah.
And it was fun to see Sean Astin as Santa. And my favorite number was actually the Nobody Cares About Santa Claus sequence where all the the mall Santas and stuff are eating Chinese food, and that whole thing was my favorite choreography in song and dance. And I have no major complaints with Elf the musical. If you get a chance to see it, I would say go for it.
Sean Astin is just a doll. Like,
Yeah.
I just think he's just such a delight.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, especially because since he played like a hobbit, it's like fun to see him play
Yeah,
Santa.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that it was very enjoyable. And then I saw A Wonderful World, the Louis Armstrong musical, and this is a new musical about Louis Armstrong. And what they do is they divide it into 4 acts, and each act is one of his wives, about his relationship, 4 wives. And so that's how they kind of structure it. And I'm no expert on Louis Armstrong. I've heard that they kind of smudge over and kind of rearrange things, and it's not. Um, um, my friend Tim Leninger, he had some things to say about the history thing of going on, but it is that's the structure that they use, and they have most of his like hit songs, obviously Wonderful World, things like that. And I actually had the understudy for this one. His name is James T. Lane,
Mm.
and he I think he actually, I think, looks a little bit more like Louis
Okay.
Armstrong than James Monroe Iglehart, who's of course the big name playing Louis Armstrong. I obviously haven't seen him. I just saw James T. Lane. But he it was great. All the talent was really great. My favorite was his final wife, uh, Darlisa Searcy, playing Lucille. She has pipes. She
Amazing.
is a very good singer, and it was a little frustrating because I think it's a show that's more a show about moments. There were lots of like, that was a great number, that was some good choreography, that was some interesting staging. But I don't think it really works. It is a long set. I mean, including the intermission, it was almost 3 hours that we
Wow.
were there. It's long, and it just starts to feel like a slog, of like, I really did not need to know every detail about this man's life. Like, some things could have been cut.
You're like, I wasn't like reading the biography.
Yeah, I mean, this
Not
thing
what
could have easily been 30 minutes shorter and not missed a beat. Like, really, so
did, did Kristen see this one with you?
yes. So this is the one that Kristen
What did she think?
saw. She basically had the same takeaway that I did. I I worry about it. I worry about it. It's just kind of a slog. Like, it has so many good things about it, but can't say I'd recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's just too bad. But we'll see. I mean, it's still going. It's we've had two very quick closures on Broadway already this season with Swept Away and Tammy Faye, which is so unfortunate for everybody involved. But so far with this hasn't yet, but and I wish them the best. But
Yeah, with Swept Away, that broke my heart because John Gallagher Jr.'s post about it, I thought was just that show means so much to him. But I saw that it got extended an extra
2
2 weeks.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, so
At
that's
least
nice that more
that's,
people can get to see it.
yeah, at least it's something, you know. It's
Yeah,
such a shame when that happens. But yeah, so this was my least favorite of the five
yeah.
that I saw. Okay, so then we got to see Drag the Musical. This is off Broadway. That we got to see at New World Stages.
I love that
And
space.
yeah, it is a fun space. I saw the Dracula play there on my previous trip, and that was a lot of fun. So the cast includes Alaska, Laguna Blue, Juju B, Jan Sport, Jay Lane Marcos, and Nick Adams. And when we saw it, it had Joey McIntyre, and he just finished, and then I think Adam Pascal is coming on for that.
That'll be interesting. Adam Pascal for that role too.
Yeah, I know that would be really good. What did you think of Drag the Musical?
So it was really fun to be able to see it with you and your sister Anna. And I like that it was a little long for my taste for a one act play. Like I had to leave to go to the bathroom and then sat the rest of
Yeah,
the back because I didn't want to disturb everyone because this theater feels more cramped than other theaters to me.
yeah.
New
No,
World
it
Stage
is.
definitely like, and when I had to climb over the two people on the end, I was like, they're not gonna like if it was just you, I would do it.
Yeah,
You know,
I
not
get
that I don't
that.
respect you, but I'm like, well, we're tight, so it's fine. But I didn't want to touch
Right.
people. The show was really fun. I thought the performances were fantastic. High energy. They were all really listening to each other. It was really a blast. I do think that the show was trying to do a little bit of what Titanic has been able to do so well with this really sharp humor, and it's really for a queer audience. I mean, it appeals to anyone, but very much to a queer audience. And Titanic nails that in a much shorter amount of time in a show that really moves. Um, this started to feel a little long for me, but I was really touched by the young boys' performance. So all in all, like had a blast. Someone from my hometown, Eddie Corbich, is in it, which was really cool to see
Oh,
him.
that's fun.
Um, so really loved it. Glad I went. I would say they could do a little nipping and tucking in this
Yeah,
one.
I'd agree. I think it's a little long, especially with no intermission. It's not like uproariously funny. Like I would say this Dracula Comedy of Terrors that I saw there was a lot funnier. You know, I was
Yeah.
laughing a lot more. Or like the play that goes wrong, which is also at New World Stages. That's definitely funnier than this.
Yes. Yes. And I think that yeah, it was interesting to watch it and be like, Joey McIntyre's great. Like it was so much fun seeing all these drag performers like absolutely killing it. Like just so
Hmm.
sharp and fun and like putting all of their energy out there, the
Yeah.
costumes, the lights, the makeup, like absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's a great set. Whoever
great
designed
set.
that set, having both sides of the both of the bars there. It's about these rival club owners and that had this relationship, and so it's a very like
Yeah.
basic plot, but it works, and it's very endearing and very sweet and has a nice message. Yeah, maybe it's not like the most funny thing I've ever seen, but it was very sweet and a nice chemistry between everybody. And if you're like a fan of Drag Race and some of these shows, like I am not the target audience for this in a lot of ways because I don't follow those shows or this kind of thing. But there were definitely people in there that like people were cheering. Oh, they were really excited to see some of these performers because they knew them from the shows and stuff. And so, if you're a fan of those shows, then it'll be fun for you to see these performers. And like I said, it had big heart, and so that made
Yeah.
it enjoyable. I don't think any of the songs were like super memorable.
No, no. And I think the big heart of it all, I'm glad that you pointed that out because I was surprisingly touched by it, which was not something I was expecting. I was expecting to have fun and laugh, but I was really touched by that.
Yeah.
So that was an unexpected effective Drag the Musical that I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that."
Yeah. So there we go. That is the shows that we saw this trip. and it was a lot of fun. And if you're listening and you've seen any of these 5 shows, we'd love to hear your thoughts. It's always great to go to New York. And I felt, especially for a family trip, I felt glad that I got to see as much as I did while I was there.
Yeah, you ended up really getting to pack a lot. And did anyone in your family see anything additional that you didn't see?
Yeah, well, my cousins and aunts, they saw MJ the musical, which I've already seen, and then they also saw The Outsiders, which I would have loved to have seen. They got tickets pretty early on, and we didn't realize that. But when we went to look at tickets, it was like $485, and that's obviously I can't afford that. So
Some of the ticket prices, that for Outsiders, and then I had a friend recommend Shit Meet Fan,
uh
and Neil Patrick Harris, Deborah Messing, Jane Krakowski, like a really stacked cast. And I they're all great. I care about that less, but the premise I was really fascinated in, because it's like they're a bunch of friends at a dinner party, and this friend, played by Deborah Messing, who's also a psychologist, is like everyone put their phones on the table and basically plays this sort of kind of like a Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf type parlor game thing, where everyone's allowed to look at everyone's phones, and people have to take calls and make calls without saying that they're in a room with a bunch of other people. And the shit hits the fan. I went to look to see if I could get just like a single ticket for myself to go see it before it closes. $360. I was like,
that's
will not be
crazy.
doing that. Will
I
not be doing.
know. No, it's too much. I mean, God bless people who can afford that and and can pay it. Like absolutely. But I can't. I can't afford that. So it's a problem because you want people to see these shows and you want to build the momentum and you want to the even sometimes if you're able to get a house ticket, it can still be hundreds of
Yeah.
dollars, which is crazy. But
When the price is when I'm like, okay, I hear 189. And I'm like, that is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but it's like the kind of a lot of money I expect. And then
yeah,
you're like, and not what I would usually pay, but I'm like, okay, if you're really trying to get that ticket, that's the range of that I would see. But then you hear like 400 and I'm like, oh, I'm
yeah,
gobsmacked.
it's
Right.
wild. Yeah, I mean, that's around what I paid for Death Becomes Her. I was able to get a house ticket price. So you can, and like I said, my aunt and cousins, they did get outsider tickets for, I think it was around that because they got them a long time ago. So you can do it, but I don't know what the solution is because they have to, they're so expensive to mount these productions.
Right.
But still, it's like then they close because they can't. But then the tickets are so expensive that how can they build momentum? I don't know. It's a tricky thing. But yeah, the prices are just tough because then like if people don't get a chance to see the Broadway shows, then how do they sort of build that initial enthusiasm? How do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like if it's just for wealthy people, then people won't even realize that they like it. They don't even get those opportunities.
Yeah. And I agree with you. It's so expensive to mount. And it's not like the actors, if you're not a star name, which then I'm sure that A-listers are getting
Yeah.
an exorbitant amount of money. But if you are a regular working actor on Broadway, you're doing well, but you're making, I think equity minimum is like 1,800 per week or something like that. So you're doing really well, but also that's not like what you're gonna make for your whole life because you're not always in a Broadway show. You're a freelancer essentially. So I understand that. I just wish that more people who had the money to throw at it would do things like I'm buying out a whole theater and I'm giving away the tickets.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that because Anthony Ramos just said in an interview when he started Hamilton that it was off Broadway, but he made $420 a week. for Hamilton. And we think, we just think, and then he said, when the show moved to Broadway in 2015, Ramos' pay increased substantially. Ensemble members made around $1,800 per week. But this was subject to taxes and agent and manager fees and everything going on like that. So like, in the city of New York, $1,800, isn't that much.
For sure, especially when it's exactly what you just said. If you pay your manager, well, agent is 10%, manager is either 10 or 15. So already you're like, okay, there goes like, say between 20 and 25%. And then you are, there's taxes, and then you're also trying to save for when you don't have a job. So yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough thing. There's so many different factors that go into play in these kind of things. It says that says you're probably coming home after everything with $1,000 a week, right? Maybe like 1,100, which is just interesting because again, you think, oh, Hamilton, he had it made,
Yeah.
Anyway, is
I remember
interesting.
even when I was not even a kid, when I was in New York auditioning for grad schools, and I went to see Spring Awakening, and Jonathan Groff just like walked down the street with his backpack, like after the show, and I was like, why isn't he getting in a limo?
Yeah, right.
Like he was going to the subway. He was going to the subway
Yeah.
because he's like, are you kidding me? Like, of course, yeah, when you become a star, you'll have a car. Great. But yeah, it just makes me laugh because I just had such a strange conception of what theater actors were making.
Yeah. Well, and I do have to say that I was there as a critic for I was there as a critic for Wonderful World, Drag Musical, and Elf. The other two I paid for, but and that was very generous and especially for Drag Musical because they not only did a +1, they did a +2, which was super super
Oh,
generous of them.
generous.
Yeah, very 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 nice. And I still have to write. I'm planning on working on that today. I still have to write my reviews. So well, I'm not sure when this gets posted, but it might be that my reviews might be up. It might be a couple days. I'm not sure, but anyway, yeah. So it's an interesting situation, and we'd definitely be curious to know what what y'all think about this and about any of the shows that we talked about. And let us know in the comments. And Jax, where can people find you?
At Jacklyn Collier on Instagram.
And make sure you check out our playlist with all of the episodes of OnStage Blog Theater podcast on there. There's lots of good stuff that we've done. And if you have any ideas for episodes that you'd like us to talk about, and we've done deep dives on shows like Sweeney Todd, things like that, then let us know. We'd love to hear those suggestions. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over the place at rachelsreviewstheater.com. So make sure to check that out. We'll talk to y'all later. Merry Christmas. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Merry Christmas.